Welcome to Petaluma, California. My name is Jimmy Ludwig.
My name is Mark Aldridge.
And we are
the Happy Hour Guys.
We're at Lagunitas Brewing.
We are.
Oh my God, I've been
long
wanting
overdue.
to get here forever.
Dog friendly.
They're making some fantastic beer. We're going to hang out with some amazing people. It's going to be a great day.
Cheers.
Leaping into the deep end of the pool.
See you tomorrow. You're going to feel good about drinking this beer once you hear the stories that go into how it's made and the people that make it. I mean, we're thrilled to be here, and we can't wait to hear the stories, and we've already heard some.
So we have a real treat now. We get to sit down, or we're sitting, he's standing, with Ron Lundenbush, the beer weasel. How the hell did you get involved with all this in the first place?
Well, you know, I came out of the distribution end of things. I was working for a little craft distributor back in the early 90s, and we had all the cool Northern California beers and some Canadian stuff, Big Rock, and we had imports. We had Chimay and Schneiderweiss that all.
Oh wow! Did you have like a watershed moment with Lagunitas when you were like, "Oh no, this is the thing. I need to be here. These are my people."
When I met Tony,
Yeah.
I met him selling kegs out of his pickup truck, and he was doing it by himself for the first year, basically.
And that's Tony Magee, who is the owner and the founder of Lagunitas.
Yeah. He was a printing guy, you know. He hated his job. He was, miserable. He was doing press checks in the middle of the night, and he was burnt. So. Thought he figured he was relatively unemployable, so he thought he probably better do something. He worked for himself.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, I'm pretty unemployable, so that's why we get along. But
and he started in
93.
93.
Licensed in 93, started selling beer early 94.
Okay. Wow.
And then we started bottling in July of 95. That's when I started with it. So
wow.
I stayed with the distributor for a while, but my buddy sold it to a guy that I didn't want to work for. Stuff happens.
Makes the decision easier.
Yeah, something. And I didn't want to work for the Bud Miller Coors guys because they all drug test.
So as you might have guessed, there's a little bit of an herbal influence on this here Northern California brewery, but we're going to cover that in more detail in a further episode. Well, okay, we'll give you a teaser now.
Now, speaking of which, there is a story that many people know, but a lot of people don't. Well, it's not actually legal to smoke marijuana in the state, but it's a pretty permissive state. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But
For
you
the
guys,
most part.
For the most part.
It's a medical condition.
Right. A medical condition.
Personally, I have chronic ankle pain.
There you go.
As soon as I lit it and handed it off, this guy's like, I'm like, I thought it was a joke. What the fuck are you doing? I got handcuffs on. I'm like, what the hell? I'm with the police. I go, who the police? He goes, the state. The state of what?
And so after this went down, you guys actually, once you were back up and running, you actually brewed a beer called Undercover Shutdown Ale? Is that right?
Undercover Investigation Shutdown Ale. Yeah.
Have I said in the last 12 seconds how much I love this beer? Wow.
So every craft brewer has had their share of trials and tribulations. Lagunitas has definitely had some. But in the past several years, they have transformed themselves into a major regional brewer with their world headquarters in Petaluma and now a satellite brewery in Chicago that is, well, it's crushing it.
I can tell it's a brew day because it's hot up here. It is warm. It's warm. It's a good thing we have beer. Yes.
One of the other things we love about being at a place like Lagunitas is we get a chance to hang out with the entire family. So for a good portion of our day, we hung out with Jack Alger, who does a lot of their social media stuff. Or as his card says, Intergalactic Headquarters Regional Vice Captain of Human to Zymerge Ecological Relation through the Digital Fodder Frontier. That is his actual title. Here's something we bet you didn't know about Lagunitas that's going to tell you a lot about the culture there. 2 days a week in Petaluma, they basically give the brewery away.
What we do is we open it up to nonprofits to come and do their fundraising here.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. Same here as in Chicago. It's kind of like before we were a brewery that would ever advertise or do any marketing or anything like that. Our grassroots kind of idea was if you're going to give people beer to drink, make them community-minded, conscious, think beyond themselves,
right.
And nonprofits are that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so giving beer to nonprofits whenever they ask, yes, like that shows something good about you as a person. We want those people to drink the beer, and no better people to have the beer in their mouths than people that are actually trying to make a difference in their community. Exactly. So that kind of consciousness really resonated with us. So we're like, okay, so that's part of the program at Lagunitas Forever. It's like,
wow.
So 2 days a week we donate the brewery basically to other people, so they can come here. We use our staff and our beer. So they can raise money for their causes, and then hopefully we're helping out and making a difference.
Yeah,
and hopefully people are enjoying the beer and maybe remembering it. Or
You've used two words that I found really interesting, and one of them you used a couple times. Humble.
Yeah.
that people are enjoying your beer the way they are, and honored that they would be drinking. And I think that says so much about Lagunitas right there.
Yeah. And here's a little something else that tells you about how great they are at Lagunitas. Sometimes you meet Tony Magee on a radio show and you say, hey, we'd really like to come up there and shoot at your place in California, but we got no place to stay. And he says, well, I got a place on the water you can stay in. And as journalists, we feel that it's really important when you're trying some new beers, you got to sample them in their natural environment. Thanks for that, Tony. Thanks a lot. Okay, back to beer.
This time right now in history is absolutely the best time in the world to be a beer drinker.
We've said that
never been a better time.
Many, many times. There's never been a better time to be a beer lover than right now.
Right now.
We should tell the brown sugar story. They make a beer called brown sugar, which is kind of a sort of a mistake beer initially, right?
It was a mistake.
Tell the story.
We made our barley wine for the first time, old gnarly wine. We made it in '96, and there was a homebrew recipe that our head brewer at the time, it was his homebrew recipe for barley wine. So he put a bunch of honey in it, right? So there's nowhere on the brew sheet for honey. So he just had the malt and the temperatures and the hops and whatever. And so the next year comes around, we're making gnarly wine again, but the different brewers are in the brew house.
Oh no!
They come in
they
the
didn't
office. No, they come in the office and they're like, man, we're not getting the gravity. What's up? And they got the brew sheet, and I'm like, how much honey did you put in? And they were like, honey? They're looking at the brew sheet. There's no honey here. I was like, well, Scott put in 200 pounds last year. That's where the sugar came from. That's where your gravity's not hitting. They were like, well, we'll just run to the grocery store and get some. And I said, how many teddy bears is that? 400 teddy bears.
So you did brown sugar
Well, we
instead.
got a hold of Tony, and he was like, why don't you get Belgian candy sugar? So we called a homebrew shop. They had 7 pounds. We needed 200. so he told them to go to the grocery store and get brown sugar. So they went to every grocery store in town and just like all the brown sugar. As I always say, I hope nobody was baking cookies that day.
So I would have to say that is one of the most, in the craft beer world, that's one of the most intense bottling lines we've ever seen.
Most definitely. Intense, efficient, state of the art. Delivering, I mean, it doesn't get any fresher than this.
It really doesn't. Thank you first.
So great stories aside, let's talk a little bit more about the beer itself. Lagunitas makes a stunning variety of beers. One of our favorites is Little Something Something Ale, which is a well-hopped pale wheat ale. So it crosses a bunch of style lines. It has a great hop finish, but a beautiful silkiness that the wheat affords it. It's a fantastic beer, and we got to taste it as fresh as it gets right off the bottling line. Let me tell you what, at Lagunitas, life is good. Life is so, so good.
Even though you are huge here, it looks like you're strained to capacity as it is. I mean, can you make beer fast enough?
We can now, yeah, for the first time in 20 years.
Wow.
21 years, I guess, really, would become Tony's first year doing it, But, yeah, it's cool. And we're not going to do anything stupid because of it. We're just going to keep that. We're going to give people some weekends off. And we're going to make people's way of life a little nicer on our staff.
So, that's a familiar refrain, too. We've talked to a lot of brewers that are getting to that point where they're able to reinvest and instead of just continuing to get bigger, it's about let's take care of our people a little bit better.
Yeah. And we're still we're still going to let demand determine how big we get.
Yep.
We're never going to determine that. I mean, Tony's going to die on payroll, is what he says. And, he's 54, I'm 53. Our upper management's right in the 50s, early 50s. So we love what we do. I'm not going to. What would I do if we sold out and I could even if I could retire early? What the hell would I do? I love golf, but not as much as I like my job. It turns out
that's an amazing thing to be able to say.
I was going to say, isn't that a treat to be able to say that?
I've been saying it the whole time. I'm living the dream, man.
So if you ever get a chance, if you're within 500 nautical miles of Petaluma, California, or in Chicago, you must find your way to Lagunitas and give these beers a try and give this culture a try. These are great people. They will make your life better in so many different ways. You can't lose.
And the next time you drink a Lagunitas, just remember these stories, remember these people, remember that this is a company that's doing it the right way. They're making a difference in the world, and you can feel really, really good about drinking their beer.
Thanks, guys.
See you next time.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your beers.
Oh, that's really bad.
See what I did there?
I do.
Because he says ears?
No,
I said
got you.
I said
yeah,
beers?
we all got you.
You see where I went there?
Yeah, we all got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, get off the stage.